Hi, my name is Andrew Hardiman. I'm doing a documentary on the psychology of bullying, and I have a special guest with me. I'd like to bring out Dr. Dave Spano. So, would you like to introduce yourself to people?
Sure. I'm Dr. David Spano. I am the director of the Counseling Center at UNC Charlotte. I'm a psychologist. I've got over 20 years experience working as a counselor with adolescents and young adults, and licensed in North Carolina as a psychologist.
So my first question would be, what is bullying?
Well, bullying is, really any time that someone who is in a position of power, usually a peer, who is more powerful than another peer, takes advantage of that peer in some ways, harasses them or makes them feel bad. Usually a peer-to-peer relationship when one person has got power over the other. And bullying can take a lot of different forms, but usually it's an exertion of power.
So what are the main reasons why people bully?
Well, I'm sure it varies from individual to individual, but I think some of the main reasons why somebody might become a bully is because they themselves may have low self-esteem, and one of the ways they feel better about themselves is to take advantage of another person and look for somebody who's less powerful than them to help them feel better. There are other reasons why people bully. Homophobia is one. Somebody who harasses somebody because they're gay, lesbian, bisexual might be one. Racism might be another. If someone is racist, they may bully somebody who they feel like is of a race that they don't like. So I think there are different reasons why people bully, but usually it's because the person who's doing the bullying feels some need to do something to hurt somebody to make themselves feel better.
So do you think bullying is a big issue, and if so, why?
Well, bullying is a big issue. I mean, it's been a big issue for a long time. It's especially a big issue for the person being bullied. I mean, that's the person it's the biggest issue for, because that person has a lot of negative consequences to bullying. But it's also a big issue for society. If we are not in a society where people can trust each other, if schools are places where people can't be safe, then it affects everybody in the school. And it creates an environment where learning can't happen, social development can't happen, and so it is a big issue. I think there has been a lot of publicity about bullying in recent years, and I think it's become more front page news, and so I think that's probably helped to raise awareness, but I think it's still a big issue.
So what are some things that bullies tend to do to their victims?
Well, I think there's a variety of things. Some of these things are very obvious physical things. They could beat up their victims, hurt them in some way, punch them, hurt them, pull their hair, do something to make them feel bad physically. But I think, maybe more commonly and just as devastating for the person being bullied are the emotional things that somebody does. The harassment, the yelling, the teasing, the pranks, doing something to their locker, or doing something embarrassing to the bully, or making threats. And so some of it isn't as direct physical hurt as other things, but I still think there are some consequences to even things that are not physical.
So what are the negative effects that bullies can have on victims?
Well, there are a lot of negative effects. The bully can affect somebody's self-esteem, make them feel bad about themselves. The short-term effects can be very serious. They might be afraid to go to school. They might have physical injuries. They may feel shame as a result of their sexual orientation or their race or their behavior, the way they look. But there are also long-term consequences where somebody who's bullied may develop a fear of other people, a difficulty trusting people, a difficulty getting close to people in relationships. So sometimes those relationships are very damaging in the long term, not just in the short term.
So do you think bullying will ever stop, and if no, why?
Yeah, that's a good question. That's like asking, do you think there'll always be evil in the world? And I think the answer is unfortunately yes. So I don't think bullying will ever stop completely. I think it's probably been around since the beginning of time. But I do think we can have an impact on making bullying much less frequent. The project you're doing, the fact that you're trying to educate people about bullying can go a long way toward helping people raise awareness of bullying. I think we need to teach people that if you're aware that bullying is going on, you need to say something. You know, usually somebody other than the bully and the person being bullied knows about it. And if those people would be taught to say something to somebody, then we can put an end to bullying. If the person being bullied would tell people, they usually don't because they're scared or they're threatened. But if they tell people, it can stop. So raising awareness can certainly have an impact on bullying in our society.
So what are some signs that you could tell if somebody's being bullied?
Well, you know, if I'm a parent and I notice that my son or daughter is suddenly afraid to go to school or doesn't want to get out of bed or has trouble sleeping, has nightmares, just changes their behavior or their appearance in some drastic and dramatic way, doesn't want to go out and do things, maybe is socially withdrawn, I might be suspicious of something like bullying going on. Obviously, if there are physical injuries, you know, obviously we're going to look into that. If the person says things about themselves that indicates that they don't feel good about who they are, that might also be a sign that there's some bullying going on, and so I would investigate.
What is the best way for someone to stop a bully from bullying them?
Well, you know, it's hard because the person being bullied is usually in a pretty powerless position with the bully, and the bully is usually threatening them. But you know, I would still say to my son or my daughter who is being bullied, tell somebody, tell a parent, tell a teacher, don't keep it secret. And don't believe that the bully's threats are going to be true, because those threats are intended to keep you quiet. But I also think that by telling your peers, your friends, and if the friends know to tell somebody, that's a way to stop it. Usually other people know about bullying besides the peer, besides the person being bullied. And those people need to tell somebody, and that's how bullying can stop.
So what actions can be taken if you spot someone being bullied?
Well, I think confront the bully, you know, especially if that person is, you know, somebody that is a peer of yours. I would just say, hey, cut it out, buddy. Stop it. You know, that's not going to go. It could lead to some confrontation, you know, I don't know. But I would also say tell some authorities. If you're in school, tell a teacher, tell a principal. If it's a neighborhood bullying situation, tell a parent. Bullying is also against the law, so if it gets really out of hand, then the police can get involved and that they can intervene. So I would suggest most important thing is to tell somebody about it and have somebody confront that bully. And then I would offer that bully some support, you know, because I think while bullies, you know, we think of bullies as bad, they're doing it for a reason. And I would try to find out why and why that bully is even doing that, and trying to keep that person, help that person learn not to treat people that way, and what the reason is that they're doing that.
Well, that's all our time for right now. I'd like to thank Dr. David Spano for being here for our interview. And I'm Anthony Hardiman, and this is my documentary on psychology of bullying. Thank you.